Welcome everyone once again to another edition of Expat Hoops. I'm Tony Budney alongside Andy Hoverman. Today we're talking with former Lenoir-Rhyne player Will Perry, who has played for 7 seasons overseas, most recently in Mozambique. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Will, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, guys.
So you played at Lenoir-Rhyne. You played for two different coaches in your career. The majority of your career you were with their all-time wins leader John Lenz, but your senior year, I did want to ask you. You reached the Division II Sweet 16, and it was under uh, Ryan Odom, and he's currently at Utah State. He's the coach that took UMBC to its most famous victory, which is that over Virginia in the first round as a 16 seed. I did want to ask you, what was it like being under Coach Odom at the time?
Yeah, Coach Odom was great. I mean, I owe a lot of my professional career to Coach Odom, to be honest. Great coach. I knew he was going to make it big. Didn't know that he was going to be, his career was going to jump, that high that fast. But kind of had a feeling like just being around him that he was on to big things for sure. His dad was a great coach, Dave Odom at Wake Forest.
For
Um,
sure.
coached some good players. Tim Duncan, I think he coached him. And he just was a good guy to be around too. So just having that whole family around was a blessing, man.
And I do have to shout out to Hickory, North Carolina, one of the best short tracks in the country, for on the racing aspect, something that some of our fans may be interested in, but of course I'm interested in as well.
Yeah, very
Um,
popular.
I do have to ask though, during the course of your time at Lenoir-Rhyne, while you were there, was there ever a moment where you really considered, hey, what's it going to be like to play overseas? Am I going to think about playing professional ball? Because Lenoir-Rhyne's a small school; it's a D2 school. It's not. We've talked to a lot of D2s, under Division I athletes. What was the point in which you were like, hey, maybe this could be a thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't know anything about playing professionally my first 2 years. So my first 2 years, my freshman year at Lenoir-Rhyne, I didn't play much, and so frankly, like I didn't even think about being a professional. My second year, I played well. I was starting and I was playing well. But D2, you're a starter, but you still don't think about, man, I'm good enough to be pro. My third year was really good again. I improved pretty much in every category, but my team wasn't very good. So even my third year, I didn't think a lot about it. But that summer, I started training with the guy that was playing overseas. His name is JJ Miller, James Miller. Shout out to him. Great player, great trainer. And he was the first guy to tell me, hey, man, like right now you're on the cusp of maybe being good enough to play professional, but I think you can do it. He was the first guy to ever tell me, like, hey, man, it's possible. Like, NBA is going to be tough, but you can make money, overseas. So summer of my junior year was the first time I even thought about it. And then I went into my senior year. We had a great year, made the Sweet 16. I was one of the best players on my team. To be honest, I wasn't the best player on my team. A lot of people don't know that, but I always tell people the best player on my team was Keenan Palmore, and he played pro for a couple years as well. I think he played maybe in the G League and in Mexico, a couple places. He's retired now, but shout out to KP. He was a great player. And anyway, by the end of my senior year, I had a good enough year, all conference. We were a great team. I was playing at a really high level, where I got some attention from agents. And then, of course, I knew, okay, I got a shot at this. I think I can be a pro.
So that's actually probably where I'll pick up here. So you did an excellent job of kind of distilling the idea that you're a really high level basketball player, and in terms of trying to get to the next level, and kind of how it became kind of like a dream and aspiration to how I actually make it a reality. So I actually kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about the connection there with not only the trainer that you had. I know off the pod, we kind of talked about how your father's a lawyer, and in terms of you brought up agents just a moment ago. If you could kind of take us down a little bit into, like, okay, it's getting down into brass tacks. You're done with your senior year. What did your transition from college to pros look like? Not only in terms of how your first job came together, but also in terms of identifying an agent and how you decided to make that choice.
Yeah, I had two or three agents. I'd be lying if I said I knew. I think two or three, maybe four, two or three, four, reach out to me and say, hey, I want to represent you. I think you can play professional basketball, overseas. And to make the choice between the 2 or 3 is totally random, man. FaceTime with all of them. They told me what they thought about me, what they thought they could do. And I flipped a coin, dude. And I just chose one. His name was Ruben Lopez, a Spanish guy. And great guy. I ended up meeting him in person. Me and my dad drove up to Virginia because he was going to the Portsmouth Invitational. Ruben was my agent to meet with some other players. And he said, hey, I want to meet you in person. And so my dad actually like drove to Hickory and was like, I'll go meet him with you. You know, my dad's a lawyer, like you said. He wanted to, you know, talk to the guy. We had a contract already. He wanted to look at the contract, yada, yada, yada. So we went up there, met him, and we really liked him, man. I liked him a lot. He was a great guy. And so I signed with him. So I was signed to Ruben after my senior year. That summer I just trained. You know, I had a finance degree, so in the back of my head, I was like, all right, if I don't get a job, you know, I'm gonna be able to go into another avenue because I got a degree, and you know, I thought I was a smart guy, so thought I could do something outside of basketball too. But long story short, around September, which is late, you know, normally guys get jobs July, August, as you guys might know, but around September, he finally calls me and says he's got a 10-day contract in the 3rd division of Spain, and it's a tryout contract. So you only got 10 days. If they don't like you after 10 days, you know, we're going to keep you over there in Spain, and we're going to try to find you another club, you know. And that's what happened, man. I went over there and I impressed them, lucky enough, and they kept me after those 10 days. And so I signed a contract for barely any money and played in the 3rd division of Spain. And the rest is history, I guess.
So before we get into that actual experience in terms of how that year went for you, take us through a little bit more in detail, like what that 10-day contract is like in terms of the compensation, you know, like you said, it's you're now 7 years in. And so looking back on it, we could kind of gloss over the details, but take us through basically that 10-day period. How much are we talking about? How much pressure are you under? And if it didn't work out, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so I felt pressure because like I wanted to satisfy myself that I could be a pro. So like if we're talking about pressure, it wasn't really like how am I going to eat if I don't get this job? Because you know I had a degree and I was going to be okay. You know, so it wasn't like do or die pressure, but it was like I got to satisfy myself. I had just worked all summer with JJ, my trainer. You know, I was in the best shape of my life. All I was thinking about was basketball, and I was ready. So the pay was nothing, just food, you know, fly over there. You know, I had an apartment, you know, with a couple of roommates. So it wasn't like I was paying for anything, but I didn't get paid anything for 10 days. You know, the 10 days was just trial. And it's funny, man, like I got there and there was another guy on the tryout too. It was 2 of us. And like what I understood, like kind of what my agent told me was, hey, he's going to keep one of you. And the other one was a big man. And I was looking at the team and I was like, man, like we have a lot of good guards. I don't know, like this big man just kind of fits the build more for the team. So I was nervous that every night I went to sleep thinking, man, there's no way he's going to keep me no matter what. This guy is 6'11" and we don't have any height. So they're going to keep this guy. And it's funny, they ended up keeping us both. And I never asked like why they kept us both. You know, there's not like a roster limit, I guess, in that league. And, you know, I assume we were both cheap. So like he kept us both. And yeah, man, I haven't thought about that in a while, but that was actually a pretty crazy 10 days. It was I was playing really well, but in the back of my head, I just kind of had a feeling that they were going to keep the big guy because that's kind of what the team needed. But you know, he kept us both.
Well, fortunately, it did work out. And like we said, you're now in year 7. So, but at that time, you know, you're on the 10-day contract. You do progress. You do sign the contract. Take us through what it's like starting off in a 3rd-tier Spanish league, the level of competition. You kind of alluded to it. There's another guy on a 10-day contract, tryout contract. What is it like in the 3rd tier in terms of like when you're facing off against other imports, and just in general, you know, what were your experiences like off the court as well?
Yeah, I'll start off the court. Spain is my favorite country to travel around, man. Spain is beautiful. I don't know if either of you guys have been to Spain. If you haven't, you got to go. You got to go to Spain. Spain is beautiful. It's
Definitely somewhere we need to get to, but I don't think either of us have been there.
No.
We have plenty of people that have enticed us to go there as well. So
yeah,
man, Spain, dude, Spain is another level, man. I mean, every city that I played in was beautiful. Like it was unbelievable. You go somewhere, it's beautiful. You go to the next weekend, it's beautiful. It doesn't make sense. And Off the court is good. Spanish people are nice. The food is good. Spanish coaches, basketball coaches for me are some of the best coaches in the world, man. I mean, they're really, really detailed, really good coaches. My current coach here in Africa is Spanish. I mean, they're really, really good. Spain, as a lot of guys will tell you, is really competitive. There's a top division called ACB, which is, basically the NBA. I mean, it's big time. Then there's the next level is called LEB, and you have a gold and a silver division. So they kind of call it second and third division, but it's both called LEB, LEB. And so I was in the silver division, and it was competitive, man. It's a lot of really young guys that are going to play in ACB or even in the NBA. You get a lot of 20-year-old kids that are the next season will be, NBA prospects or G League guys, or they'll go to ACB. So you got a lot of 20, 21, 22-year-old kids that are really talented. And then you got a lot of rookies because the pay is low. So you got a lot of rookies like myself. And you got a lot of African guys, big, tall African guys that play in Spain. The competition level is really high for a third division. There's definitely no other third division in the world that's as high as Spain, the Spanish division. So it was a blessing to be there because I got thrown into the fire really quick and a really tough league with a good coach, with a good basketball culture. Sometimes you can go to a country your first year and it's not I don't know, you don't feel like you're getting the best, structure, coaching, professionalism, but Spain has that. All three of the divisions have that. So it was a blessing, man. I played pretty good. I think I averaged 9 points. In Spain, that's a good average for your rookie year. It propelled me to my next job in Portugal, where that's where my career kind of took off after I got to Portugal. But Spain was a blessing, man. And I owe a lot to that club because they took a chance on me. And if they didn't, I don't know what would have happened.
It sounds like you definitely enjoyed your time there. You mentioned your next job. You went to Portugal's top league. Initially, you signed to was the 2-year deal or was it a 1+1 deal? We hear a lot about that.
1+1.
1+1? Okay. How does Portugal's top league compare to the Spanish third division? I know that the third division is pretty competitive. Any top league is going to be a pretty competitive situation. But how do the two leagues compare to you? How was the transition into there from a playing style standpoint?
Yeah, I'd say Portugal is better than the third division. It's better than Spanish third division. You got more higher level imports because there's just more money going around. So obviously, the more money you got, the higher level the imports are. Portuguese guys are good, just like Spanish guys, but I'd say it's slightly higher level for sure. You got some teams in the Portuguese league that play in Champions League and Euro Cup. So Spanish third division definitely doesn't have that. So the top of the league in Portugal is much better than all the teams in the Spanish league. But some bottom teams in Portugal, it'd be pretty close with the Spanish led teams probably. Man, Portugal was good. My first year, our team didn't win a lot, but I scored a lot and I had good numbers. After that season, I had a couple other offers, but I got a raise to come back, and I loved the city of Ovar. The club was great. The fans were amazing. And, I just had a good year, and I felt like, man, if I come back and we win, something good can happen. And it did. I came back my second season to Overinch, and we won. We went to the Final Four. It was a great experience. We lost to the eventual champions. And, on paper, we were probably the sixth best team in the league, but we went to the Final Four, which was a big semifinals, which was a big deal. So my 2 years in Portugal were great.
And Ovar, of course, is on the Portuguese coast. So I imagine the city, you had another beautiful destination where you landed.
I lived on the beach. My
Must
window
be nice.
looked at the ocean. 2 years, man. Lived on the beach. Lived on the ocean.
Well, your career is definitely starting out great. After Portugal, you ended up in Bulgaria. Take us through your season of Bulgaria.
So I was there half the season. Man, listen, Bulgaria was a different place. I like Bulgaria. I was in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, which is the second biggest city in Bulgaria, which is really nice. Beautiful culture. People were great. The club was good. So what happened, man? I don't want to say I left the team or they fired me. It was kind of a mutual agreement. I'll be honest, in the preseason, the second game of preseason, I ran off a screen and I got hit in the neck kind of near my shoulder and I pinched a nerve. And so I was out for like 3 weeks, couldn't do anything. You know, the best way I used to describe it to people is like on video games when you play and like the people lag. I don't know if you guys were gamers. I wasn't,
Yeah.
but you know, you press the button and the guy does it late, you know, he's not reacting good. That's how my right arm felt for like 2 months. I mean, I could barely play with my right hand. I played a preseason game left-handed one time. You know, the coach is like, you got to play, you got to play. I'm like, all right. So I go in the game and I tell him, hey, man, you know, I'm not going right. I can barely shoot. So just anything you want me to do, I'm going left. So I played a game left-handed against BC Baroe. I'll never forget it. And that was a preseason game. Start of the season, I asked the club, like, hey, can I take some time off? I'm not going to be able to play well. My pinched nerve is really bothering me. You know, they gave me kind of a somewhat crappy answer in my opinion, and kind of pushed me a little too much to play. But you know, that's another conversation, I guess. But man, we just couldn't get it together. In the end, in December, I left. They wanted me to leave in like, I want to say October, November, but I guess they didn't want to cut me because then they had to pay the whole contract. They were I could kind of tell they were like wanting me to kind of leave on my own, if that makes sense. And I wasn't going to do that. And so finally in December, we just both kind of said, all right, what can we do? We kind of came to an agreement, and I left. And a couple of weeks later, I got a job in Luxembourg. So it was all good. But Bulgaria, man, it's a good league, really strong league. I had really bad luck, you know, but it's not an excuse. Like I could have done better myself too. But that pinched nerve really killed me, man. I mean, I could barely use my right arm. It was a grind. It was a grind.
What did that take to eventually get that better? To do rehab or anything?
Tons of rehab. Yeah, rehab, tons of rehab. And it eventually did. But even when I was in Luxembourg in like January, man, I still had problems. It took me a while. That pinched nerve really affected my game, man.
There was something else in Luxembourg that affected your game, and it affected everyone's game. You were there, of course, in January of 2020, and through March of 2020. And around that time, COVID hit. So you were in Luxembourg for your particular COVID experience, which is something that we've had a lot of players talk about on the pod. What was yours?
Man, crazy times, man. Crazy times. Yeah. So I'm in Luxembourg, you know, obviously one day they call us and say, hey, there's a, you know, disease going around. We don't know. Luxembourg's a great country, great healthcare, small country. You know, it's not going to affect us. Don't worry. You're just going to kind of sit inside the house for a little while they figure it out, and we'll be on playing in a week. Don't worry. And obviously that wasn't the case. You know, it was a lot bigger deal than they told us. They said the season was canceled, so everyone's got to go home. But the problem was like the airport in Luxembourg was having some trouble, and like we took like a week too long to get flights. You know, and me and a couple guys on the team got stuck there, really. And eventually, and my girlfriend was with me at the time, so we had a 2-story apartment, which was really nice. We had a car from the club, so we had a good living situation. And eventually, I think the other 2 American guys I was playing with left. They got flights, and man, me and my girlfriend stayed for a month. The club said, hey, you know, you can wait this out and kind of hang out in Luxembourg if you want, or we can get you a flight, you know, next week. And me and my girlfriend was like, you know what, let's just stay and see what happens, you know? So we stayed a whole extra month in Luxembourg. You know, we could only go to the grocery store and back. That's all we did. But, you know, after a month, we realized the season's not coming back. You know, nothing's going to happen. COVID's a big deal. And we went home. But yeah, man, that was a crazy time. Luckily, my conditions in Luxembourg were really good. Like I had a nice house, a nice car. So it was a comfortable situation to be in. Like if COVID hit and I was in my first apartment in Spain for my rookie year, it would have been rough. I had like 3 roommates, like, you know, we all shared kitchen, bathroom. It was rough. But Luxembourg was a good place to, you know, have COVID happen in, I guess.
I know you spent a little bit of time there. There were a few games. What was the playing experience like in the very limited time you had there? And I know you were dealing with injury too, so perhaps there wasn't much time on the court there, but we haven't had many people that have talked about basketball in Luxembourg before. So I'll just take this one opportunity to see if there's anything you could tell us.
Yeah. I played some games, man. And we played well. My team, so when I got to my team, we were at the bottom of the standings, you know, and they basically brought me there and said, hey, we need a point guard, and we really don't want to relegate, you know, in overseas basketball. You relegate, you move up and down. they were like, we really don't want to relegate. And we weren't going to. I mean, we won, I want to say 5 out of the 6 games I played, or 4 out of the 5. We lost 1, I remember, but we won all the other games. So we were on the road to doing really well. My injury was doing better. I was playing really well. And so it was a bummer that it got cut short. Basketball in Luxembourg is a little different. It's not as high level, but there's really high level imports. So like the American guys that go play in Luxembourg are really good because there's good money there. You know, some of the clubs pay really well, so obviously it attracts good imports. But it's not like playing in Spain where you play 23 minutes, you know, you pass the ball around, you got to play defense. You know, Luxembourg is pretty much just, hey, you got to score points, man. You got to make stuff happen. So I was shooting a lot more than I'm accustomed to. I want to say I averaged over 20 points, and, you know, which I don't normally do that. But Luxembourg is a little different. It's pretty run and gun. You know, imports come over there and you gotta score it, you know.
That was actually going to be where my question was going to go, because Luxembourg is like you said, small country. It can be an expensive country. And so it's interesting to see that although it may not necessarily be the highest level league, it does seem like you were indicating that they do pay the imports well. And I know that you indicated that you have had a really good situation there where it was a good apartment, good car. So that's very interesting to see. But as far as your teammates go, and getting into, like, you know, in terms of the local teammates, what's like the rate of pay? Is it very, very lopsided basically towards the imports to get them there? And what are you playing with in terms of your local talent?
Yeah, it's lopsided. Luxembourg's lopsided. So in Luxembourg, there's not a lot of talent. You know, in Spain, Portugal, Bulgaria, you know, the guys from those countries are very good, very talented. And oftentimes they can get paid close to what you're getting paid, or maybe more, you know. But Luxembourg is not, that's not the case. Some of your guys have other jobs. I think, yeah, some of the guys have other jobs. So it's almost, they're semi-pro. But, you know, the best Luxembourg players are pro, and they might get paid a solid rate. But yeah, it's interesting. Luxembourg is not, your teammates are not going to be super high level like they would be in other countries in Europe, around the world. But there's a lot of pressure on you if you're an import. You know, they expect you to play really well. They'll fire you if you don't very quickly. You know, in Spain, you got a little more rope. You might have 2 bad games, 3 bad games, and, you know, no one's talking about you. It's okay. You'll bounce back. But Luxembourg, if you have 3 bad games, you know, you might be on the next thing going home. And that's definitely the case, man. But yeah, the pay is good, man. My salary was good. I had my own house with 2 stories, like I said, which is not normal up until that point for me. And I had a nice car, good food situation, you know. So it was really nice situation in Luxembourg. It's, you know, quick fact. I want to say it's the richest country per capita in the world. I think it's, you know, a bunch of banking's done there. It's a really, you know, economically sound place.
Absolutely. And I know that we've talked to some people before that have played like in Switzerland, which is another one that, you know, there's a high standard of living, but, you know, depending on where you are and what club, they may not pay as well. So that was actually kind of the root of my question. And so it's interesting to hear that, you know, in terms of the imports, that they basically don't mess around, that they pay you appropriately so you can actually live there. So that actually is kind of interesting. So, but pivoting, you know, like you said, COVID broke out, and you were in a good situation. But towards the fall of that year, you know, comes time to look for another job. You wind up going back to Spain. Take us through exactly kind of what, once COVID broke out and, you know, we realized like Luxembourg probably wasn't going to be finishing the year. What does it look like in terms of you getting to your next place?
Yeah, that was a big break in my career. You know, that year I was doing well. I was, you know, happy in Luxembourg. Both my contracts in Bulgaria and Luxembourg were solid. So I was like, all right, I'm making something out of this. And man, COVID, I don't want to say COVID like hurt the market, because I don't really know how it did, but like I noticed that summer the market was not moving a lot for me. You know, I was like, even the year before when I finished in Portugal, I had a lot of offers, you know, a lot of teams wanting me. And after that season, that COVID season, it was more quiet than I expected. I don't know if that was just me or COVID or whatever. But anyway, I went back to Spain. The good thing about this club that I play with in Leb, Cantabria, is that they were trying to move up. So, you know, they had a much bigger budget, they had much bigger aspirations, and they basically said, "Hey, we want to win the championship," you know. And so my situation there was good. I had my own apartment, good food situation. I was there with my girlfriend. And yeah, it was a good season. I played for Cantabria, who's now in Leb Gold. They ended up moving up the year after me. We made the finals and lost. We lost, but we did make the finals, which was great. We were probably one of the better teams in the league, definitely top 3. And we ended up making the finals, and we just couldn't pull it out in the end, unfortunately. But it was a good season, man. I had a really good season, and it got me to my best situation, which is here in Africa, because my coach, who's Spanish here, saw me playing in Spain. He saw me playing in Spain and, brought me here. So, I felt like I took a sidestep going back to Spain, or even a back step, just because I'd been there before. I had some offers in higher leagues, but like maybe the money wasn't great. And my girlfriend's Portuguese. She also wanted to be there with me. So it was, I needed my own apartment, that kind of thing. But all in all, yeah, I might have took a sidestep, but I'm happy I did, because it got me here, which, so far has been my best experience of my career.
We have merch. Head over to the Expat Hoop store, where you'll find t-shirts, hoodies, masks, coffee mugs, pint glasses, and more.
It's one of many ways you can show support for the podcast, so head over there and pick up some merch. That link below is in the video description, or you can head over to our website, expathoops.com, and click merch. We offer a couple of different Expat Hoops logos, and we have men's, women's, and kids sizes, so you can get something for everyone. In our house, when we use a VPN, we are sure to use NordVPN. NordVPN secures up to 6 devices and is compatible with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and even your Wi-Fi router. Plus, it's no risk to your wallet. Head over to the website for pricing or contact customer support 24/7. And remember, your purchase is always safe with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Click the link in the video description to use our code and make sure you're secure with NordVPN.
And before we get into the last spot, I mean, as we kind of alluded to when we were doing off the pod, we wanted to kind of devote a significant chunk to this stint in Africa. But kind of going back to it a little bit, post-COVID, it does seem, at least on the people we've talked to, that there has been significant conversations about in Europe, it didn't seem to be a quick recovery, and that a lot of people have kind of gone on to where Asia has maybe gotten a little bit stronger since the outbreak of COVID, and that things are kind of in the middle of shifting. I'm not sure if that's kind of your experience as well, but in terms of making a lateral or a sidestep, kind of what you're talking about with going in Spain, that does seem to track at least a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of guys with the same experience, whether that's like the level of league they went to after COVID, or their salary level not being where they thought it would be. And, I hate sitting here and blaming COVID, because, like, man, I mean, who knows what it is, but COVID's the main, I guess, the common denominator in most of these guys' stories. So yeah, I think it has something to do with it. I'll just be honest, I'm in Africa because of that situation. Africa is growing, and it's great leagues here now, and the NBA is investing a lot of money. Asia has just always been a big paying place. If you're good enough and can make a big chunk of change, you might trend towards Asia, because it's just how it's always been. And Europe, I see, is struggling a little more, but I've loved Europe. I played there 6 years, so not much I can say about it, right?
And let's talk about Mozambique, because you spent the majority of your 2 years in Africa in that country. What has the Mozambican league, what has that team, and what has Basketball Africa League been like for you?
It's a blessing, man. Basketball Africa League is really popular. It's only in its 3rd year, so it's really new. It's an NBA sponsored league. So basically the NBA, a lot of people don't know, the NBA started the CBA in China years ago. They invested a bunch of money in China, because they wanted basketball to be global, right? I mean, look at now. I think Chinese people are the people buying most of the jerseys now in the NBA or something like that. But that's a little off topic, but they're wanting to grow African basketball as well. So they invested a bunch of money in this league called the BAL. And how it works, man, is for people that don't know, is every country has a domestic league, like Mozambique has a league, Rwanda has a league, Egypt has a league. The champions from those leagues, then if you win your championship, you qualify for what's called the BAL qualifiers. And then you go to your zone. So my zone is like Mozambique, South Africa, Zambia, the southern countries, on the southern part of Africa. They play in what's called the qualifiers. And I think it's like 2 or 3 teams from your zone. I want to say 3 teams from your zone go to the BAL, qualify for the BAL. And the BAL is what started, just a couple of weeks ago. And it's a 3-month basically tournament of the 12 best teams in Africa. So my teams, made it. And so that's what we're doing. I won the Mozambique championship, and then we went to the qualifiers and we qualified for the ball. And now we're in ball. So it's kind of 3 phases of the Basketball Africa League. And yeah, I'm in Mozambique. It's a beautiful country. So basically, I came here in September. I played in the domestic league. Now the Mozambique domestic league is only 2 months. It's only 2 months long. It's like a quick little 2-month.
How many games is that?
We played 20 games, I think, about 20 games, 16 to 20 games, I want to say. So you play a lot. You play a lot of games.
That's a pretty tight schedule.
Tight schedule, man. I mean,
what is that? Do you get a lot of back-to-backs and maybe 2 days off if you're lucky? Yeah,
exactly. You have a lot of back-to-backs. It's rough, man. It's tough. But that's how it works. And the domestic league champion from the previous year in a league like Egypt is the one that qualifies, because they have a real 9-month season, whatnot. But the smaller countries like Mozambique, they'll just do like a 2-month domestic league championship. So we did that. After that, I went to South Africa. So we stayed in South Africa for some time and played in the qualifiers, against teams from Zambia, teams from the southern part of Africa. That was in Johannesburg, South Africa. And then we qualified. And so now we're going to Egypt here soon to start playing in the BAL, the league that now has the 12 teams. And man, you check it out on Instagram. It's a great league, man. There's really good players in the league. South Africa's got a great team. Angola, Dwayne Wade's son's in it this year. He's playing for South African team. You got some ex-NBA guys in it. It's growing, man. It's been a great experience for me, and I'm blessed, man.
Speaking of Instagram, and sort of not only the BAL is a great follow as well, but your Instagram as well, and some of the places that you've been, that's also worth checking out as well. So that might be something that we'll link up as well. But one of the things we're talking about off the pod is you actually got loaned out, and that's an experience that is a little bit unique because it doesn't really seem to happen a lot in terms of the other places that we talked to. So if you could kind of talk a little bit about how you were loaned out during this particular season.
Yeah, so after the qualifiers ended, which was just basically before Christmas and New Year's this past year, I signed a new contract with my club here, and for February to May. But I told them, January to May. But I told them, hey, man, in January of last year when I did, they sent me home. So they gave me a month off, and I didn't get paid for January. But this year I said, hey, I want to get paid for January. I want to get paid 1 extra month this year. I don't want my January month to be without pay. So they said, well, what we can do is we can try to help you find a club and loan you. And, they pay half my salary, and the club will pay half my salary. So I don't know typically how some loans work for players. And maybe it's different, but that's how mine did. Basically, my club here, I wanted to keep playing. I wanted to keep playing, and I wanted to get paid. But my club here didn't want me to go, sign some new contract in another country and just forget about the BAL and forget about this club. So they said, hey, we'll let you go play for 1 month, and we'll pay half your salary if they can pay the other half. And so we found a club we agreed upon. It was in Rwanda. So I was playing in the Rwandan domestic league for 1 month with a team called the Kigali Titans. Rwanda is a beautiful country, man. If your viewers want to, go check out Rwanda's story. It's wild, and it's an amazing story. I mean, in 1990s they were having huge problems with civil war and whatnot, and now it's an amazing, clean, safe, beautiful country. But anyway, that's how it worked. So I got loaned to the Titans, and after my month finished, I came here, and now I'm here, and we're practicing and getting ready.
Thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring Expat Hoops. We recently became a brand ambassador for them. SeatGeek is a ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They offer a 0 to 10 score on each ticket to know if you're getting a good or a bad deal. Green means good, red means bad. You get the idea. It's a really easy way to get tickets to events. Plus, our viewers get $20 off their first ticket purchase with the Expat Hoops code. Click the link in the description to download the app. Remember the code Expat Hoops, EXPATHOOPS, all one word, to save yourself $20 off your first ticket purchase with SeatGeek.
What has your life away from the game been like in Mozambique while you've been there?
Man, honestly, we practice twice a day. I live right next to the beach. Sometimes we walk out to the beach. Our club has a good soccer team, so I went and checked out the soccer game last Saturday. It was awesome. It's not too crazy here. You know, we basically just practice, come back to the apartment. I live with two other guys. They live downstairs. I'm upstairs in the room. We have a nice place. We have a pool in our apartment. So we go to the pool sometimes and hang out. It's you know, it's a lot of walk on the beach, a lot of hang out by the pool. It's warm climate. So, you know, as you can imagine, Africa, there's not really winter. So it's a warm climate. And but it's pretty easy life here, man. We got a bus that picks us up every day for practice. Food's taken care of. It's a relatively easy life. You feel like you're really in a bubble, kind of moving around, just basketball, home, you know. It's a pretty easy life, man.
I was gonna say, you just made the comment about winter and not having it. It's like, rub it in, man. Rub it in.
We're currently having
no winter.
we in the DC area we have what I like to call fake spring, and then we have winter again, and then we have real spring. And right now we're in the winter again phase of our transition into the season. So enjoy the beach and enjoy the warm weather while you can.
Yeah, Africa, man.
From Hickory, North Carolina to Mozambique, Will Perry, thanks for being on the pod with us today. You can find him at WillPerry0 on Instagram. He does a pretty good job there. Will, you're not done with us yet, though. We've got some expat extras to talk to you about. If you are listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please head over to YouTube to see those. Will, thanks for stopping by today.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, and thanks for watching. Be sure to give the video a like, and you can watch more videos over here. You can also click subscribe over here so you're notified when we have new content here on Expat Hoops.